Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. And today's trivia theme is, where did the pros go? So we're going to ask Russell if he knows where these professional, I think it's football players here. Let me just double check. Yeah, they're all football players. You have to tell me what college they went to. And don't worry, it's not as hard as you think. I know, because I was wondering, well, it's going to be something like, University of Southern Arizona, Mississippi State or something, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, this will be a little easier for you. All right, some topics I know we want to cover. Damar Hamlin is back in the pads, which is really kind of interesting. We'll talk about that.
Isn't he dead?
No, well, technically, I guess he was dead and he came back. He's feeling a lot better now.
No, remember there was the conspiracy people saying that it was
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, maybe they got someone, the conspiracy people.
Got better. He got better.
Yeah, he got better. Exactly. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers takes a pay cut to join the Jets. Talk a little bit about that. ESPN lays off Mark Jackson. CBS.
Where are they going to get all the salt now?
Yeah, that's a very good question. CBS and Nickelodeon are joining forces to present a slime-filled telecast of Super Bowl 58, I believe it is, to be more kid-friendly. I want to get your advice on that because you have younger kids. And MMA fighter Stephen Thompson still has not been paid. We'll talk a little bit about him. And I know Russell's got a few things he wants to talk about too. So with that, we're going to go to our first commercial break here. And this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, still providing mortgage investments, currently yielding over 7% secured by real estate. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown along with Russell Jackman. So Russell, you got a couple of things you want to start off with.
I do. The first one that I'm going to start off with is a personal friend of mine is a guy by the name of Don Geronimo, who was a radio talk show guy first in Sacramento. He started off in DC, and then he went to Sacramento, where he did some announcing for the Kings, and then he moved back to DC, where he was with WBIG FM in DC, where he was covering the Commanders, and he was at the Washington Commanders preseason practice, and a lady walked by who is blonde, and she's a bleached blonde, and obviously she has a very she's
very attractive
model. Yeah, very attractive body. And as she walked by, Don shouted at her and said, "Hey, Barbie." And then he said, "Oh, I thought she was a cheerleader." And then, said, "Oh yeah, she's really tight." And after those comments, Don Geronimo was fired and he had just signed a 3-year deal to return back at WBIG through 2026.
And he said this on the air?
Yeah, he did. Okay. Yes, he did.
Okay.
It was like at a preseason practice where they were just kind of like having him just do constant narration while the preseason was while the practice was going on.
And it turns out she wasn't just a pretty face; she was like another reporter, wasn't she?
Yes, she was. Okay. And although I don't think that there would have been any difference whether she'd just been someone that was working for the team.
Gosh, it's weird. I mean, I think about, was it Don Imus who got fired?
Oh,
right? Yeah, for the comment he made about, I think it's a Scarlet Knights, I think. Syracuse.
Yeah, and but that was different because he called her a nappy-headed hoe.
I mean that obviously is a that's a big insult. I mean, I get the trying to respect everybody type of thing, but sometimes even guys might point out, hey, this guy's not just another pretty face. Okay, like Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Handsome guy.
Right.
I mean, what would happen if he would have said, something about, "Hey, handsome, what's going on?" or something like that,
Or if he had
right?
called him a Ken doll, if he had called him a
Ken,
Ken doll.
yeah, like I guess is it Ryan Gosling who's playing Ken in the movie? I haven't seen it yet. My wife wants to see it, so we'll probably end up seeing it. But um, that's being called a Barbie, and it's funny because I did see a picture. She kind of does look like a very pretty Barbie. Um, I'm not sure that that's an insult, but I mean, I
Well, it
get the
is
fact that
funny because we are talking about Barbie in such positive terms when it comes to the movie itself. I
yeah,
mean, being called a Barbie would seem like a compliment in that sense, but obviously, the way he was talking about it was somewhat demeaning. But Don is from like an old school type of thing where Howard Stern ruled, and they used to
yeah,
do stuff on their show, on the Don and Mike show, like strip trivia and
oh yeah.
spanking women with a stapler on the air, or
With a
like frying
stapler.
pan, yeah, with a stapler or a frying pan, and
Frying
the women on the phone would like make orgasm sounds. It
pan.
just like that was bad. It just, Don goes back to a day in time when you could be that kind of over the top kind of sensationalist sexually on the air, and the censors didn't care, during
Well,
that
it's
whole.
not like he even whistled at her, as
No,
I understand it. I mean, and also
and
it's
he's
not like,
married.
and
He's
he didn't call her a dog or something that was
no,
insulting. Now, I guess the thing was, I mean, if she was a cheerleader and not a reporter, I wonder if that would have changed. Because obviously you don't want to take anything away from her if she's really talented as being a reporter. Because I mean, I do understand it that women want to be known for more than just a pretty face, and that's fine. I'm definitely not known for my pretty face, but
that, and why do you think I don't put the camera on myself?
yeah, exactly. We have the
You
face for radio. Yes.
But
Uh,
also, when you talk about, though, walking into a room filled with dynamite and gasoline and lighting a match, I
yeah.
mean, when you get the commanders are at a point where they are so sensitive about
Yeah.
sexual harassment, given the way that Danny Snyder
Yeah.
ran things, and that they have all those allegations hanging over them, that Don just picked the wrong thing to say at the wrong time. But I swear to you, he had just signed a new contract 3 days before they fired him. He had just made the announcement. I was like, "Oh, congratulations, you're on until
Yeah.
2026." And then, like, less than a week later, he's fired. So I don't
I
know.
mean,
It's going to be
is it, and something like that, is it, maybe because it's the commanders and what they're going through, and all Dan Snyder stuff, in something like that, either A, you just let it go, or B, even if you give them like a little reprimand, or hey, go to a sensitivity class or something,
right,
but to fire him completely. I mean,
right.
I'll bet he didn't even realize. It's not like he was
No,
purposely making an insult. Again, it doesn't sound like he was really trying to be harassing, from what I read. Um, but wow. I mean, gosh, you can't even say anything now without having to watch every single word you say. And oh my gosh, if he were to say he was a Trump supporter, oh my gosh, that's it. You got to get fired for that.
then again, you don't have a First Amendment right. That's the other thing, is that people on, Facebook were complaining, and saying his First Amendment rights are violated. But you don't have a First Amendment right when it's not the government that's censoring you. If you work for a
Yeah,
private company and you
yeah,
say something, anything that the company doesn't like, they have that right to fire you. And
very
that's,
interesting. Well, especially he was at work at the time too.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, and definitely representing the commanders in that
Well, wait a
capacity.
minute. Okay, so let me ask you. I guess everybody's theoretically has a morality clause probably in their contract. Because I'm just thinking, or just in their work environment. I was thinking about like the lady, where the term Karen came up from, right?
Yeah,
Where the lady who, she complains about some black guy with a dog, blah blah blah, and then she ends up getting fired like a week later when I think it was Franklin Mutual Funds found out, because she worked for them. And it's like she didn't do anything at work. She was just doing something outside of work, but
But of course, when they reported it, they said, the lady who works at Franklin Mutual Funds, because
Yeah.
obviously where you work is a matter of public record. So,
But that is that it, would you consider that wrongful termination?
I don't. I think that when, because companies have a right to say we don't want to be associated with you, and
Yeah.
in most cases, now I don't know about this with Don's contract, because he just signed it, so I
Yeah.
don't know if was an at-will employee. But
I
if
was
you
that's
are,
I was just going to bring that up about the words at will. Like even
it's
California is an at will state, meaning that
yes,
you can pretty much fire anybody at will.
let's transition quickly over to Mark Jackson.
You know what? We're going to have to go to
Oh,
a break, so we will go with that because I was kind of curious about the Mark Jackson, but they're planning to hire Doc Rivers, and that's a little bit odd for me because of his voice. But okay, here's our first trivia question here, and the theme is where did the pros go? All right. Well, we got some softball questions for you, and don't worry, it has nothing to do with softball.
thank
Okay.
God.
John Elway retired in 1998 from the quarterback duties of the Denver Broncos. What university did he attend? All right. Did not call, but you can email Edward at sportsecon101.com. We'll see if you know the answer to this question. John Elway retired in 1998 from the quarterback duties of the Denver Broncos. And by the way, I'll give you extra credit, Russell, if you can remember what team he was drafted by, but said he would not play for them. And that's why he ended up going to Denver. All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.
I'm not touching it.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown and Russell Jackman here. First trivia question. John Elway retired in 1998 from the quarterback duties of the Denver Broncos. What university did he attend?
Was it Stanford?
It was Stanford. And extra credit, what team drafted him? And he said, no, if you draft me, I will not play for you. I'll go ahead and play baseball instead. I think for
Baltimore Colts.
That is correct.
And wasn't he the first quarterback to do that, to put his foot down and say, I'm not being drafted? I refuse to.
That's a good question. And I think at the time, I think they were the Indianapolis Colts. I think they had changed from Baltimore.
Right.
Yeah. But we'll give you credit for the Colts. Okay, so we're just before we cut to break, we were talking about Mark Jackson. He got laid off from ESPN. They plan to hire Doc Rivers, and I'm thinking every time I hear Doc Rivers, now I know he's been on the sidelines as a coach, and they always lose their voice from screaming at the so that the players can hear him. But he's got such a raspy voice in general. I think it'd be very hard to listen to him.
Yeah, sometimes you wonder, like even during interviews, if his voice is going to go out.
Yeah.
He's so hoarse. But I do hear that Mark Jackson has been offered a new job, and that's as the Morton Salt spokesperson. Because when he talks about the Warriors, I've never heard a saltier announcer. He hates the Warriors. He's always been angry at them for firing him. Of course, he got fired and replaced by maybe the greatest coach in Warriors history.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Steve Kerr. So I think he's double bitter that not only did the Warriors get rid of him with a winning record. I mean, he was the first Warriors coach to win 50 games or more as a coach. I mean,
what was the reason that they fired him?
Because at least from what I've heard, is that Mark Jackson's very religious, and he would be giving sermons in the locker room, which some of the Warriors players liked, but others, who, including the very agnostic Andrew Bogut, really was offended at. Andrew Bogut came out and said, I'm not religious, and I don't want to be given these, come to Jesus speeches every time we're going out of the locker room. And
and I'll tell you, it's interesting because my background, being Jewish, accepting Christ in 1984. I think Mark Jackson and I would speak the same language. However, I agree with Andrew Bogut because the thing is, there's a time and a place for everything. And I'm not demeaning Christ at all. But the thing is, it's like, if you want to have like, prayer sessions before that are voluntary, or prayer sessions after, I get that, but you don't force things on people one way or the other. In my
Well,
my
that apparently was
opinion.
Mark Jackson's way of doing things, and it rubbed, number of players the wrong way. But Bogut was the kind of guy that would stand up and say something. The other players were kind of, mum about it, and they just kind of. And let's face it, they did play well under Mark Jackson for the first couple of years and won those 50 games. But then when he went 35, when he only won 35 games, and
Okay.
the Warriors weren't as good, and that was, Curry, that's when Curry had his ankle injury and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Things kind of unraveled, and that's when they took the risk of hiring a guy who had never coached before, had only been a commentator, and was a big thing, in Steve Kerr. A lot of people were interested in getting him as
Yeah.
coach.
Oh yeah. He
And to
almost went
me,
to
the
the
big
Knicks, I think. Did he?
he was on the way to going to the Knicks
Yeah.
in the airport, and
Yeah.
in the airport lounge, the ownership group, Bob Myers and co,
Yeah.
cornered Steve Kerr and said, "Don't go to New York. This is what we're going to do. We're going to make you the man. And this Warriors team is so much better, has so much more potential than the New York Knicks team." And 4 championships later,
Yeah.
they have proven that that was the right thing. But it's one of sports' greatest what ifs. Is what if he had gotten on that plane and flown to New York? What would happen?
Well, I guess so. Then they still would have gotten rid of Mark Jackson, but you don't know who they would have gotten
It would have
instead.
been Van Gundy.
Would have been
That's
who?
who they were talking about getting Van Gundy as the
Oh,
coach.
oh, which one?
Yeah, exactly. I think the shorter guy,
It's
not
just
the
Jeff Van Gundy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
I like, it's funny because I know he coached Mark Jackson, and they kind of banter back and forth, and but it's funny. It's funny because he looks like Phil Silvers, the old
Yeah,
comedian. Yeah, but it's amazing. He knows basketball so well. His
yeah.
analysis is really, really good.
But it's
Uh,
one of sports great what ifs, if what if
yeah,
happened. So,
yeah.
all right, now we can go on to some of your agenda items
Okay.
if you want,
Uh,
or I have more that I can work with.
yeah. No, go ahead.
Then I want to two things. One is I wanted to say peace home to Exotic Adrian Street, who was a pro wrestler from the 70s and 80s, who died at age 82 yesterday.
Oh wow.
Same, saying he had to share the press with Pee Wee Herman dying, but he was a Facebook friend of mine, and he had a character which was one of those effeminate wrestlers, even though he himself was not gay.
Really?
He portrayed one of the, he had flower, that's what the Exotic was all about. He would wear flowers in his hair and pink tights, and put on all this makeup and stuff like that. But then he had a really, really, really hot wife named Linda that he
Uh-huh.
would go to the ring with. So
Yeah.
it was one of those weird things that you have, like a guy who dresses up as totally gay, but he
Yeah.
has a really hot wife that he was
Yeah.
obviously married to for like 40 years or
Wait,
something.
what was his stage name?
Exotic Adrian Street.
Okay. Yeah.
You'll have to look him up to get a look at. He did a song called "Imagine What I Would Do to You," where he talks about how strong he was, and he was, what a lot of people said is, even into his 60s and 70s, the guy was in amazing shape. But he got cancer, and the cancer went away, but it left his body so frail that it just couldn't go on, and he died, I believe, of a heart attack or cardiac failure yesterday, which is really too
Oh,
bad. He was, a lot of people feel he was a real groundbreaking wrestler in what he did, and the fact that he was in an unenviable gimmick but never wavered from it. It was something he stayed with his entire career. So
well, and the 82 nowadays is not super old. Yeah.
It's for a wrestler, it's like being 300 years
Oh,
old.
oh, oh, for a wrestler, yeah, yeah, because of their
Yeah, it's
body.
like living to age 300. That's like that.
Yeah.
Those are tortoise years when you talk about a
20
wrestler.
years.
And then
Wait, it's interesting because you mentioned about the same day as Pee Wee Herman, and Pee Wee Herman was, I mean, he was so silly, and it was actually kind of fun. I remember in the like, was it? I guess it was the early '80s, I think that Pee Wee came out, and he had. Yeah, he was just really funny, and it was kind of a kids show, but adults liked it because it was just so silly funny with his voice and everything. And then, son of a gun, if he doesn't get in trouble for going to like a peep show or something weird like that. And
yeah,
nowadays, people would kind of go, "Ah, that's not such a big deal."
he
So things
also
that were,
had child porn. He also
oh,
was,
did he? Oh, I didn't know
yeah,
that.
he had child porn. I think they wouldn't have gone as hard on him when, hard, as difficult on him as they would have. But I
Okay.
was a fan of his from his stand-up comedy days. So I remember Paul Rubens, and I think I've seen him in every little thing he's done, even like some of the cameos that he's done. Like he was in Batman with Danny DeVito as the Penguin. He's the Penguin's father, and very short in the film, very short. And then he was in a movie called Mystery Men as the Spleen. And he was a guy. And I think Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure is
Yeah.
one of the great cult movies of
Oh
all time. In
yeah.
fact, in the early days of videotape, that was one of the
Yes.
few videotapes that I had that was pre-recorded. So in college, in my first year, we watched that probably 45, 50 times. We had nothing else to watch. So watched Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure many, many times. So the piece home to Pee Wee Herman. And then I also wanted to bring up, because we were talking last week or a couple weeks ago about how the market for running backs has
Yeah.
diminished greatly. And I want to call out Jonathan. I ruined Russell Jackman's fantasy season for 2022, 2023. Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is what's wrong with running backs in today's game. The reason why running backs aren't getting paid as much is because of guys like Jonathan Taylor. He had a couple of good seasons to start with. Then last year he was hurt most of the year. He wouldn't go on to injured reserve, so everybody who was at fantasy teams with him on it, and he was one of the guys that a lot of people said should have been drafted #1, which of course is what I did. And he wound up really underachieving, but he's holding out now, even though he's hurt. He's holding out, and he wants a new contract because his contract ends at the end of this year. And
well, that's probably why, because he's figuring this is his last shot at getting it. Hey, Russell, tell you what, stay with us. We're going to go to our second commercial break here. The trivia question theme is, where did the pros go? Retired quarterback Joe Montana played for what university before being drafted by the San Francisco 49ers? See, I told you, these were not going to be as hard as you thought. I figured I like to pump up your ego when I can. All right, that's our trivia question. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101 one more time. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Our second trivia question, retired quarterback Joe Montana played for what university before being drafted by the San Francisco 49ers in 1979?
Probably the greatest quarterback that Notre Dame ever produced.
Yes, that is correct.
Kind of hard to argue that. Yeah, I was talking to you a little bit about Cool Under Pressure, which is the amazing Joe Montana documentary, and they really point out how much, because at the time I didn't realize how much of an underdog Joe Montana was. Even at Notre Dame, they did not want to start him. Yeah. He had to fight very hard. And even when he played well at Notre Dame, they kept thinking about replacing him. So, you just look back on it, and the coach that he had at Notre Dame, I forget who it was, but looks really, in the documentary, has a lot of egg on his face.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Well, what kind of college? That's one of those things where it's like, okay, he was what, maybe 6'2", maybe, and he probably weighed, maybe 200 pounds, and he didn't have the strongest arm, and he didn't have the best legs, and so it's one of those situations. But the whole package, he's probably the best at knowing, like seeing all of his receivers at the same time and picking off, okay, this one's not open, this one's not open, this guy's open.
And that's what I see in Brock Purdy. So I'm happy that we finally found another quarterback like that, but we'll see if he can stay healthy for an entire 17 games. That's going to
Yeah, I mean,
be
that crazy elbow injury at
well. And
against
then
Philadelphia.
yesterday in practice, someone hit his arm,
Oh no.
and like exactly everybody stopped moving, and the entire franchise just like went, but you've got to, if you're gonna
Gonna happen.
practice, yeah, it's gonna, things like that are gonna happen. And you have to, if his arm isn't capable of taking even a tiny swipe in preseason, what's it going to be like during the regular season? Which,
I think they should make a rule that since the guy's arm is hurt, no, but even in regular season, nobody's allowed to touch his arm. How's that?
how about he just uses his other arm to throw it
Oh, there you go.
during preseason, and that way we'll guarantee that he can't get it hurt. So but yeah, it's football fever is really beginning to boil up here. I think that
Yeah.
this season there's going to be a lot of eyes all over the league. Especially, you talked about Aaron Rodgers and his that he had to take a salary cut
Yeah, but
to
he's still
stay.
making 75 million guaranteed.
But you do
Or I'm
say
sorry,
to yourself,
a fully guaranteed contract. Hold on here. $75 million fully guaranteed contract contains about 35 million less in guaranteed money than he had remaining in his old deal that he signed with the Packers. So it's I guess he's showing his commitment that he really wants to do something good with the Jets.
which is amazing, because you do have to say to yourself, someone takes a pay cut to be on the Jets. It's like the Jets of all teams should be, paying over the price for any decent names to be on their team.
I'd pay a B quarterback for them for $75 million.
Oh yeah, well, sure, but what I'm saying is, it's
Oh,
for
yeah.
a team like the Jets to get someone like Rodgers at a discount when they are a moribund team that hasn't accomplished anything in pretty much my lifetime, is,
The thing is though, Aaron, how old's Aaron now?
I think he's in his early 30s,
Early 30s?
maybe mid 30s.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was gonna think late 30s. Because he's gonna,
Yeah,
I thought
he's
he was
been
gonna
around for
retire
a long
pretty
time.
soon. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're the Jets, though, you're another couple bad seasons like that, and especially if you go through Salah and you have to hire another coach, they've accomplished very little. So
Yeah.
this is kind of their brass ring with Aaron Rodgers. I don't see them,
Sure.
especially because they really swung and missed on Zach Wilson. Was it
Oh
the
yeah.
guy they drafted? And that whole quarterback class has struggled so
Yeah.
tremendously. Whether it's Trey Lance or Zach Wilson or
Gino, wait, Gino went to the Bears, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and hasn't accomplished anything over there
No.
either. So yeah, there are a lot of guys that were drafted so highly in that highly touted quarterback class,
Sure.
and so far not one of them has really accomplished anything. So the Jets are pretty desperate because they spent a lot to get Zach Wilson and have nothing in return. So this
Yeah.
better work out for them with Aaron Rodgers, or it's going to be even more of a mess than it's been in New York in quite a while. So,
Well, let me ask you about DeMar Hamlin.
oh yeah,
we all remember him getting injured on the field and
the zombie.
the zombie. Yeah, really. And now he's back in pads. I wonder, first of all, from his standpoint. Now, again, it's been many, many, many months now. How gun shy he will be, and also how people coming up the middle are going to be. They're not going to want to hurt him, but I think that's probably going to be less so. So if I'm a running back,
Yeah, I mean, you put yourself on the field, you are fair game,
yeah,
and the NFL isn't for, patting people on the back and saying, glad to have you out here. I mean, that will be when they first see him, but after that, he's just another player. And
yeah.
you're not going to give up a touchdown to somebody just because you feel sorry for them.
No, they're not going to go that crazy. But do you think, like, how much is he going to be a little gun shy?
Well, I want to like juxtapose this also, because we didn't bring this up last week because it just happened, was LeBron James's son.
Yeah.
and having a heart attack on the court, cardiac arrest on the court. How do you cope with a player that you're playing against when you know they've had one of these terrible
Yeah.
cardiac issues, and that if you're the guy, you let's say you bump up against LeBron James' son when he's playing as a pro and he goes down, are you just gonna absolutely freak out and go, "Oh my God, I killed him"? Same with Hamlin.
Basketball is a little different because it's not supposed to be as much of a contact sport, but yeah, I don't know if that would be as much. I mean, I'm trying to think mentally. If I was playing against him, I would just play normal. It's up to him to kind of ease up if he wants. Sort of the same thing with DeMar Hamlin, right? It's like, hey, if I'm a running back, I'm going to go as hard as I can. And if you want to try to tackle me, that's up to you, right?
Right, but
Yeah.
the first time he goes down, hard,
That's going to be interesting. Yeah.
everyone's going to gasp. And it's the same thing with LeBron James' son. I don't even know if a team is going to be interested in drafting LeBron's son.
Yeah, there was Matt Gaither,
Hank Gathers.
Yeah, same sort of situation. Hey, let me change subject here for a second. So CBS and Nickelodeon are joining forces to present a slime-filled telecast of Super Bowl 58.
See, I thought you were talking about the Republican convention.
Yeah, there you go. It's funny because I was wondering, well, what is a slime-filled telecast? And I think what it is it's that they're doing the Super Bowl, but then they're adding kind of funny cartoon type graphics and stuff, which at first sounded kind of silly, but then I thought, if you're 8 years old, unless you're really, I don't know how much you could really be into the Super Bowl, but if you've got like another TV to watch, you're probably going to be interested in that while dad is watching the Super Bowl and really into it.
My kids like the Puppy Bowl.
What is the Puppy Bowl?
Oh, you've never heard of the Puppy Bowl?
Name sounds familiar, but I don't know what it is.
My kids are in the background. They're going, yes, the Puppy Bowl. The Puppy Bowl is on Animal Planet, and they literally have a bunch of puppies like running across and a little foam football that the dogs pick up and run to the end zone and run back with, and it's they pretend like it's a real football game, and they have kitty cheerleaders, and they have birds in the stands watching.
That's
and
cute.
It's super cute. And they raise money for animal adoption services. So but that's the counter programming to the Super Bowl that's on. So I remember when Denver played Seattle, and Denver, like the very first play, Denver hiked it and fumbled the ball. Yeah, it was a safety, and then from there, Seattle just pounded the living stuffing out of Denver. That's when I switched over to the Puppy Bowl and didn't come back.
It's funny, that was the first time I'd ever seen. It's funny because Peyton Manning, I get the Hall of Fame and all that stuff, but he looked so skittish, almost like he looked defeated the first time he touched the ball.
Yeah,
it was really odd.
That was one where I was just like, this is not going to get any closer. There's no miracle comeback. The Peyton showed no wherewithal. So anyway, having this other thing, and then I remember things like the Beavis and Butthead Butt Bowl.
I know who they are, but I never saw
the Bud Light, the Bud versus Bud Light. The beer bowl. Do you remember that at all?
No, but what's interesting? You mentioned about Bud Light, because this whole Dylan Mulvaney thing has been such a disaster for Bud Light. But has regular Budweiser sales go down? I gotta think they.
And really? In another couple weeks, look, people are now, that right wing element is now all angry about Barbies. So they
what are they angry about Barbie? Something about China or something?
I don't know. You're the representative of the right wing, so you would have to tell me what they're upset.
Well, I'll have to watch the movie, and then I'll tell you.
I've lost track. I mean, from the Nike boycott, so supposedly to Target being mad at Target, and then they
Oh,
were mad at
oh, I get, no, listen, that I get, because all that woke transgender stuff, I can't get into either, especially with children. The whole idea is you don't go after children, and I totally agree with that. So I'm definitely on the right wing side. In fact, I'm probably more right wing than the wing when it comes to protecting children on that,
well,
because I do not believe in mutilating children and thinking that that's a good idea.
my children have never been threatened by a transgender person in their lives.
Oh, no, no,
And
I'm
they,
not. No, well, no, I'm not. I'm talking about the grooming part. I'm not talking about like, oh, you're threatened, by walking down the street and all that. But it's like
I
this.
have I have transgender friends, and they've never tried to groom anyone in their entire lives. They just want to live their own life
Oh, and
the
I
way
and I listen. I see them around. And I don't necessarily interact with them, and I don't have an issue with them doing what they want. I'm talking about like the stuff, all this gender affirming care, and they call it care. Just like abortion is health care. Yeah, it ain't
I've
health
had
care for the baby, that's for sure. All right,
I've
you
had
ready
my friend.
for? Hold
Oh
on, we're gonna cut
wait, I
through.
want to say one. I want to say one final thing, because
All
this
right.
is a political thing. But I've had friends go and go through the
That's his
transgender
surgery.
surgery. I've had
Yeah.
their kids. I've had my friends' kids. My friends were straight, but their kids wound up being transgender and make the transgender surgery, and nobody groomed them. In fact, I can
Okay,
tell
well,
you this.
how old are the kids now?
She was my friend's son was 18 when he transgendered. We had the surgery to move over
Okay,
to.
but he wasn't like 3 and 4 and 5
Oh,
years
no, no, no,
old when you
no.
started doing
But he knew when he was 3 or 4 he wanted to be female. He wanted to be male,
that. Which
and
is kind of funny because I got to ask of those. I heard this on. I heard Dennis Prager say this. He goes, well, how do they know they want to be a boy if they don't even know what a boy is? They don't. Anyway, let's tell you. Let me ask this quick question. We'll go to break.
okay.
Pro Football Hall of Fame running back O.J. Simpson
Oh
attended
boy.
Rich University for only 2 years before being drafted by the Buffalo Bills in 1969. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back with some closing comments. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, Edward Brown here along with Russell Jackman. I am on the right side. Russ is on the wrong side. No, he's on the left side of things. Okay, trivia question number 3. Pro Football Hall of Fame running back O.J. Simpson, your favorite character, attended which university for only 2 years before being drafted by the Buffalo Bills in 1969?
Was it San Francisco State?
No, he went to Galileo High School, but then he actually
Right.
went to USC.
Oh, USC. That's
Yeah,
right.
he was USC. Yeah.
I did know that. I did know that.
Yeah.
I was thinking California, but I just didn't remember. Yeah, USC doesn't really brag about him being.
No,
you
and
know,
it's so sad because, boy, I tell you, I mean, I remember him vividly, and I mean, he was my favorite running back. Probably like a lot of kids in the early '70s. I mean, it was just awesome watching him finally
well,
get 3,000 yards and all that.
here's the irony is that my brother is Owen. Okay, so his name is OJ, and so like
Oh,
a lot of people called him hey OJ, hey OJ, in the 70s and stuff like that. And it's like now he's like, don't call me OJ. My brother's like, just don't call me OJ. Call me Owen or whatever, but don't refer to me as
well,
OJ.
you know, here's something kind of really kind of crazy. So when John Lennon got assassinated, we'll say, they were going to make a movie about him, and there was a guy they found who could act and looked exactly like John Lennon, and they were all set ready to do this movie. And it turns out, guess what the guy's real name was? Mark Chapman.
No way.
Yeah,
Oh,
and they
that
go,
is really cool.
we can't hire you. And he should have changed his name, his stage name. Okay, you ready? Here's our thoughts for the day. So I asked this old man I know, after 95 years, you still call your wife darling and honey and love? I said, what's the secret? He said, well, I forgot her name 10 years ago and I'm afraid to ask
Yeah,
her.
that's good. That's a good one. I'll
Not
give
too
you
like
that.
that. And why don't mummies go to summer camp? They're
They are too wrapped up in their
very
studies.
close, very close. They're afraid to relax and unwind.
Unwind.
Online. Very good, though. I like that. Okay, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We'll be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
So long.